So, Matt Lina here, and I have not done a stream in I don't know how long. And the reason I'm doing a stream right now is because it was recently brought to my attention that bullying has been a problem encountered by some of my friends. And I hate bullying. And so this video is a public service announcement both for bullies and for those being bullied. Last week, I wrote a vitriolic piece about those who have bullied one of my friends. It's a horribly vitriolic piece. And I was told by one of my friends that it reflected poorly on me and that it wasn't very charitable. Definitely a whole lot of wrath came out of it. And so I took down my piece. I figured I would take the opportunity to better articulate myself. And after struggling to write things for a couple days, I've really not made too much headway on account of the fact that the situation I'm trying to help is both very simple in nature and also very complex in the way that it manifests itself. So, what happens a lot of the time is there is an order almost amongst gifted people that does nobody any favors unless people actually have character. And the importance of character dwarfs the importance of pretty much any other attribute that a gifted person can have. I've told numerous parents, both online and in person, parents of gifted children that want to know, hey, what should I do for my kids? How do I help my kids adjust? How do I help my kids cope? How do I do? And my response is always number one priority is teach them to be a good person. Character development cannot take a backseat to academic development. Now, this becomes especially difficult for those who do not have good character role models at home. This becomes exceptionally difficult for those that have only ever observed pathological interactions, observed or participated in pathological interactions. There are ways of dealing with differences in between people that don't involve unnecessarily hurting others. And it seems to me that there exists a sizable subset of the gifted community that just straight up doesn't care. Part of it, I think, is due to the fact that we notice our own problems. We live in our own world. We have our own ego. And those elements come together and influence, well, everything about ourselves, how we decide to deal with others, especially. Now, one of the probably most, um, if we go down this particular bunny trail, one of the most salient bits is that verbal giftedness is the subset of giftedness that largely helps us articulate to other people our perspectives, helps us deal with other people, and helps us to put forth our will in the world. Of course, like that's good writing skills, good speaking skills. And I would go and say that, the whole emotional intelligence thing, kind of reading body language, perhaps belongs under the same umbrella, because it generally has to do with, okay, how do we articulate ourselves sufficiently precisely to be able to say what we mean, and then also how do we articulate ourselves sufficiently coherently, perhaps even, I would say, with integrity, so that what it is we're showing to other people is what they need to be seeing, so that there's not a mismatch in between the reality we're trying to express and the words and actions that we put out into the world. So what does this have to do with bullying? Bullying behavior happens for a number of different reasons, but the predominant one, I think, is wanting to exert power over another. Regardless of whether this exertion of power makes any sense at all. I am a bully. I want to have some sort of an impact in your life, whether it be stealing your lunch money, beating your face in by the dumpster out back, ruining your life, etc. All those kinds of things are things that bullies do. I see somebody decided to drop out of the call. Maybe it was a bully. Or drop out of the stream. Maybe it was a bully. All those of you that haven't dropped out, please do put a thumbs up, because I do want people to be able to see this. And I know this is incoherently put together, and I know that this is just kind of a spur-of-the-moment stream. But this is something that needs to be said. Thank you. I see a thumbs up now. Anyhow. Somebody else dropped. Ha. Maybe another bully. But the whole point of this is, if someone is insecure intellectually, or if somebody has their identity wrapped up in this idea of, oh, I'm smart, or oh, I'm articulate, or oh, I'm this. Well, okay, that is something you were born with. That is something you were stuck with. You had all the potential in the world when you were born. You did nothing to deserve it. I did nothing to deserve the potential that I have. You've done nothing to deserve the potential that you have. The potential that you have relative to other human beings has zero bearing on your worth as a human being. And so, if you happen to be articulate, that does not give you the right to take being articulate and use it as a weapon against other people. If you are mathematically inclined, that does not give you the right to take being mathematically inclined and use it as a weapon against other people, especially unprovoked. And this unprovoked bit gets to be the point where I start taking issue. Because there exists the subset of gifted people, they somehow sort themselves out into those people that are really good verbally, the people that are articulate, people that can put together coherent thoughts. And then there's also this other aspect that a lot of them don't have, the other aspects of giftedness. They can't go and sort their thinking. They can maybe go and articulate something, but their thoughts are all over the place, or they lack the ability to think about things in depth, whatever it might be. And a lot of these people are highly gifted. They will go and come close to, or maybe even max out verbal sections on IQ tests or whatever. But that's not the test itself isn't what matters. The point is, they're used to being top dog. They're used to being the person who kind of has it all together, at least from an intellectual perspective, which, by the way, they don't deserve. Nobody deserves that gift. Nobody deserves giftedness. I've already said this, but I will articulate it until I turn blue in the face. And so there's this thing that I don't deserve, that you don't deserve, that nobody deserves, that somehow becomes the basis of my self-esteem. And then I decide what? What do I decide? I decide, oh, anybody who's a threat, I will just put them into the verbal meat grinder. And what is a threat? Well, maybe somebody that can do something better than I, or somebody that claims that they can do something better than I, which is even worse, because the fact of the matter is, nobody is hurting you. Nobody is hurting you by making the claim, hey, I'm exceptionally gifted. I'm profoundly gifted. Whatever it is, that kind of a claim is not injurious. And so what happens is, a lot of these gifted people will get together and say, oh, so-and-so says he's profoundly gifted, but he doesn't. And then they start imposing. It's like, I don't care. I don't care. Somebody can, and anyone can come up to me and tell me they're profoundly gifted or exceptionally gifted, or did well on this test or did well on that test. It doesn't matter. That has no bearing on your worth as a human being. And frankly, if, for example, if I'm hiring you or something, I'm going to go and ask you some simple abstract questions about, okay, how do you manipulate data structures? I mean, if I'm doing a coding interview or whatever. And an IQ test does have a lot of, the results correlate very much to life outcomes, but that doesn't mean that somehow someone who claims a high score devalues anything that anybody else says. But apparently these ninnies get the idea that it does. And so instead of going and doing something to improve their own situation, they go and they sit in their mom's basement and they become keyboard warriors, and they decide to do things to impact the reputation of other people. It's probably mostly, I don't know, teenage males. Mostly teenage males. Probably with horrible upbringings, with parents that don't actually teach them how to behave, or parents that tried to but just generally sucked because they couldn't communicate at their level. But that doesn't remove the need for character. And it doesn't give an excuse. It gives an explanation, but it doesn't give an excuse. If you're going to act like a horrible human being to other people on account of some claim that they make. And that's the biggest bullying that gifted people do, is against other gifted people that they perceive to be more competent. If they do that, just stop. If you do that, just stop. You're doing nobody any favors. Doing absolutely nobody any favors. All you're doing is hurting other people. If you somehow feel threatened or hurt by somebody, that does not give you the right to go and hurt them. It does not give you the right to go and damage their reputation. It does not give you the right to go and contact their boss at work and spread lies about them. It doesn't give you the right to cyberbully them. It doesn't give you the right to do things, because a whole lot of what you do in this world is attached to your reputation. If your reputation goes down the toilet, you can ruin someone's life. And if you think that it's a reasonable idea to ruin somebody's life because of the fact they hurt your poor little fifis, I don't even know what to say. That is appalling. That is absolutely appalling. Why would you do that? I mean, I know why you would do that. It's called lashing out. It's called being vitriolic. It's called being an asshole. But just stop. Just stop. You take a quarter of the effort that you spend lambasting other people and the quarter of the time you spend lambasting other people, a quarter of the mental energy that you spend worrying about what other people think, and you apply it to improving your own situation, maybe getting your ass out of the basement and doing something productive, or maybe going and finding somebody that doesn't have things put together quite as well as you do and helping them. Maybe you'll do a little bit of something to ameliorate the situation. Maybe you'll have a little bit of something you can feel proud of rather than having to go and attempt to pull everybody else down to your own level. I'm not your dad. But this is something that your dad should have told you. And I'm sorry if you don't have a dad to go and tell you this. But this is just a basic fact of life that you need to get straight. And for those of you who are bullied, not the bullies, but for those of you who are bullied, I wish that there was something more I could do. But I can't. I cannot stop bad people from being bad. I cannot stop evil people from being evil. I can try to give you tools to help, but I can't stop it. Because being a jerk is largely encoded into human nature. Everyone has the capacity for it. But if you're bullied, as I've been in the past, generally now, though, I seem to be kind of immune to it. I mean, people try, and apparently there's something that I say or do. I don't know quite what it is that shuts it down, but I'll try to give you a little bit of an insight as to maybe how to shut it down if you're encountering this sort of a thing. The first thing is, if someone goes and says, "Oh, you're lying," or "Oh, you're not," what does your own integrity say? What does your own integrity say? Are you being internally consistent with yourself? Are you actually lying? And we'll assume here that you're not. I have no reason to believe that people would or that anybody actually watching my channel would lie about their giftedness. Or if they do, that's their problem, right? But let's just assume that you are a person of integrity, and somehow your competence has made itself known. What can you do for the people that are taking pot shots at you? What can you do with the people that are trying to chop off the heads of the tall poppies? What can you do? Ridicule. Now, occasionally I may go over the top with my ridicule. I probably have on numerous occasions. But I know you're logical. and you're reasonable, and your natural inclination is to go back and say, oh, but I took this test, or oh, I did this thing, and oh, here's all the evidence. And I will straight up say that doing that will not help your case. All it does is give them more things to try to poke holes in. And all it does is feed the conversation. And feeding that conversation is the last thing you need to be doing. Ridicule. Abject ridicule. Shaming is the way to go. You can try to be sympathetic, but usually somebody in that frame of mind needs to be jolted out of it. You can try to say, well, I feel sorry for you. You must be hurting. You must be this. You must be that. You must be feeling inferior. But the problem is coming from you. If you go and you tell somebody, hey, you feel inferior to me, all that does is go and feed it even more. But if you go and you say, or even just blow it out of proportion, yeah, I'm just some dumbass. I can't do anything. I don't know anything. And just roll with it and say, yep, I've been lying my whole life. Really, I've never done anything I claim to do. All I do is sit in my mama's basement and whack off. Right? You can do that too. And if the irony is lost on them, or not, that's not irony. If the sarcasm is lost on them, then just so be it. They're too stupid to be able to interact with you at all. And nothing you say or do will be fruitful. Nothing at all. And so ignoring those kinds of people is the best thing to do. But if you actually want to put a stop to what somebody is doing, just going and saying, well, you know, I've done the things I've done. What do you have to show for your life? Like, don't do something that can be construed as an attempt at passive aggressively being condescending. If you go and if you legitimately care about a person and you still go and say something like, you must be feeling inferior, or you must be feeling this way, or I'm guessing that you're feeling that way, they will go and take that as an insult. The reason they will take that as an insult is because they're assholes. And if they were saying something to somebody else in that same tone of voice, it will be because they are passive aggressive. And so they'll project their passive aggression onto you regardless of what your intentions actually are. So don't even do that. Don't go that route. Go the route of saying, you are pathetic, get your act together. And then just leave it. They will bluster, they will do whatever they can. Just leave it alone. Do not feed that conversation. And maybe in 20 years' time, the bully, the bad one, the stupid one, the nasty one, whatever person it is that was messing with you, maybe in 20 years' time, if they haven't killed themselves, maybe in 20 years' time, if they're still not living in their mom's basement, maybe if they got their act together and you run into them at some point, you'll be able to have a good relationship. But until they go and take those steps in their life, until they are ready to have that kind of a change, you are not going to logic them into it. So stop trying. Just stop. There's a place for being contentious. But that is not a place for it. That is a place where we put a hard boom. This is something that we're not transgressing. This is something that we're not doing. This is just the way it is. Done. And then you let the cards, you let the chips fall where they may. You let everything play out. Let everything happen. But you distance yourself from the crap. I will not tolerate this. For being tolerant of that, you don't tolerate it. I do not tolerate this behavior. You are behaving pathetically. If you don't want to completely shut down the potential for something happening in the future, say, once you get your act together, come back and see me again. But don't count on it. Don't count on it. It takes decades for most people to get their acts together if they haven't figured this stuff out by the time they were 5. And they run into all sorts of painful experiences, and unfortunately, that's just the reality. You can feel as sorry for them as you want, but you're not going to be able to improve their situation. Only they can do that. You can maybe shine a very bright spotlight on it and say, hey, look, this is the situation. But especially given how interconnected the world is and how far apart we can be from people with whom we're having direct communication, sometimes shining a light's the only thing you can do. And as the bullied, that does not give you the right to exceed what would be reasonable. You can shame people. You can tell people exactly what it is they're doing. Say, I do not approve of this. I do not accept this. This is just horse shit. You can do that. But don't go to their level and try to ruin their lives. Do not try to get even. They're already in a low position. Don't beat them while they're down. And I really, if you guys have been putting stuff in the chat, I can't actually see that. So I don't know if you guys have had anything to say. But if there is anything else that you'd like me to speak to, please do let me know. And if I can see it in the chat, I will speak to it. But now I've pretty much said my piece. It's very simple, very straightforward. I don't think that the subject of bullying is all that pleasant, and I try to deal with it as tersely as possible. That being said, I just wish people would treat each other right. And if I don't see any interacting here in the next 55 seconds or so, I'm going to go on to another topic. And talk about that for another 5-10 minutes and then kill the stream. Character is important. Character is exceedingly important. A whole lot of young gifted people go and look at philosophy because they're trying to figure out the things that their parents wouldn't teach them. I would also say that when on the subject of looking at philosophy, one of the most important things to look at is how everyday life is dealt with. The trolley problem, the lifeboat problem, all those other kinds of situations that tries to get you to make an impromptu decision involving life and death. Those are fun exercises, but they don't actually. Those kinds of things happen so rarely that, yes, being able to deal with those is an integral part of having a coherent philosophy of life. But I think often exploring those kinds of situations wind up leading us into lines of thought that allow us to escape the problems that are actually facing us on a day-to-day basis. Because it's a whole lot easier to deal with hypotheticals than it is to introspect and think, hey, I actually did something wrong. Hey, look at the ramifications of this choice that I'm here making. Hey, look at whatever the relevant thing happens to be. I am inadequate to the situation. It's so much greater comfort to just go and solve these obscure problems with very little basis in reality than to solve the ones that are actually slapping us in the face every single day. How do I treat my wife? How do I treat my kids? How should I treat my wife? How should I treat my kids? How do I treat my parents? How should I treat my parents? How do I treat my coworkers? How should I treat my coworkers? How do I treat the people that report to me? How should I treat the people that report to me? How do I treat the people to whom I report? How should I treat the people to whom I report? Back in the day, understanding one's place in the world and the relationship to other people was an integral part of the discussion. And discussions revolved often around virtue, and discussions revolved around one's vocation in life and the virtues associated with one's particular vocation. Virtue is something that is good in and of itself. And pursuing virtue for its own sake is one of the most laudable things anyone can do. Viewing life in a transactional sense is and can be very rough. And the reason I say that is because life is not one interaction with one person, one interaction with another person, and we're done. So if we go through and we try to think about how do we maximize any given interaction that we're in for our sake, which could actually be kind of done, okay? And psychopaths do this. They view people as means to their own ends. And that's that. And they can go and, or those exhibiting their dark triad traits could go and do whatever it is that they go and do in order to try to maximize things. And they do maximize things in the short term, but they have to go someplace else because they've gone and exhausted their possibilities. So even if you are just a selfish bastard and you're your goal is maximizing outcomes for yourself and you care nothing for anybody else, uh, remember that life is not just the one transaction. It's a repeated transactional game with a whole bunch of participants. And so conducting yourself in such a way as to maximize your return over time is a way better strategy than um, trying to get everything you can right out of this very moment right now. Whether it be, I'm going to bully somebody to get the good feeling that I can get right now because I'm never going to see this person again. Or, oh, I'm going to stiff this person in this business transaction because I'm never going to see this person again. Just stop. Just don't think that way. If your modus operandi in life is use people and abandon them to get your own shit straightened out, don't do that. On the other hand, there exists this old idea called charity, which basically means treating everybody unconditionally well, loving them, treating them fairly. And that doesn't mean that if they do something bad that you don't go and put a stop to it. But what that means is that you conduct yourself in such a way that you care about what's best for others. Oh, but who's going to take care of me? Well, if I do that, who's going to take care of me? It's like, well, you are, and eventually, if the society in which you're working isn't completely pathological, you'll be able to find yourself other people that are friends or associates or people that won't treat you like crap. But there exists this thing in your own mind that if you're going and you're viewing everybody as people to exploit or people that can serve as means to my ends, whatever they may be, whether they be the bullying kinds of ends or the fraud kinds of ends or the whatever it might be, I'm not even sure how this quite works, but it seems you tend to attract other people like that. And so instead of getting mutualism, you get almost like this mutual parasitism thing going on until people get sick of it and move on. Um, but when you do actually put out into the world, when you do actually put out into the world good stuff, I'm not saying that people aren't going to take advantage of you. But you can go and see the people that do go take advantage of you and say, okay, I'm going to keep my distance from these people. But the people that willingly enter into good, mutually beneficial relationships with you are the kinds of people that you want to keep around for a lifetime anyway. They're the kinds of people you can build things with. They're the kinds of people you can do things with. They're the kinds of people that you want to be responsible adults in the lives of your children. They're the kinds of people that you will trust. And so building these trusting relationships, it's a whole lot of work. And in this world where you can literally go and talk to anyone, where it's so much easier to discard people on account of the fact that there's so many others that can fill this nebulous void of something, or at least that you perceive can fill that void. I forgot how I began my sentence. Anyhow, I'll restart. Because people can be viewed as interchangeable cogs, that causes us to treat people like cogs. Just don't do it. And realize that they're not interchangeable. Treat people based upon their intrinsic human value, but don't let the parasitic pathological ones go ruin your life. You can have your value, you can go do your own thing over there. You will not ruin my life, you will not ruin my children's lives, you will not ruin my friends' lives, my family's lives, my spouse, whatever. But welcome anybody with whom there's mutual goodwill. I mean, that's kind of the basis of having a healthy society. But it requires actually working at it and listening to other people and having them listen to you and being articulate, and then still not being afraid to go and put forth what you actually think or believe or care about, or asking for what you want and being willing to give other people what they want. These are just basic elements of life that it seems that people don't get taught anymore. Especially gifted people don't get taught anymore, many of them. I don't know, maybe there's this hope that if the trolley problem can be solved, that somehow all the other hard problems can as well. And I don't think that is. Because there is no actual solution to the trolley problem. There is no solution to the lifeboat problem. There is no solution to that. Because there exists some element of humanity that makes people worth something just by nature of who they are as human beings. But there is this idea that if all the hard problems can be solved, then maybe our problems can be solved, and there's this draw to trying to solve them. And I would just say, consider your vocation in life, consider your place in life where you are now. Because I guarantee you there's something there that can be made better. That requires no participation on the part of anybody else but you. And tying this back to the original topic of bullying, if you're a bully, taking the effort that you would spend bullying other people and improving your own life with it. If you are bullied, taking a stand for yourself and saying, no, this is not, I will not accept this behavior. This behavior is unacceptable. And then dropping it out of your life, saying, no, I'm not going to expend my mental energy on this. Instead, I'm going to expend my mental energy on improving my situation or on improving the situation of my family or my friends. Just extricating yourself from the bad stuff and thinking on the good things. All this old stuff that grandparents go and tell you, oh, just go and have, have your thankful thoughts, have your positive thoughts, have your happy thoughts. That doesn't mean go and fill your head with a bunch of lies and cotton candy and bull crap. It means have a good hard think about what it is that's actually good and strive toward it. That's a message that it's evergreen. It's never going to go away. It's good for everybody. Anyhow, that's about all I have to say on that matter. I hope this winds up being helpful. And I'll look forward to seeing you again. I'm putting together some videos on Git for source control and some videos on learning a new programming language and how to get involved in the software career. If those are things that interest you, you're more than welcome to join in. I'll be putting new stuff up every Saturday, or every other Saturday. But I figured that this one was more important to get out than anything coding related because, well, it's about how we treat people. And if we can't treat people right, we have no business doing anything else. Because whatever code we write, whatever things we do, whatever decisions we make are going to be so permeated by whatever crap we're bringing into the situation that, well, maybe it won't necessarily be the best thing. So anyhow, let's get our character and our formation of character straightened out first, and then we can focus on the fun stuff. on the creative stuff. All right. That's about all I have to say. Talk to you later. Bye.